reflect on how many things have happened, it feels like an eternity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like I look back on my life, I'm like, there's no way I'm that old. Oh wait, I am. It's just weird. It's a very odd space to be in.
Especially as your kids start getting older.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of adulting.
All right. It's 7 o'clock on Thursday, October 9th. Let's call the Wilton Board of Education regular meeting to order. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes.
I would like to ask for a motion to amend the agenda if we can move E2, the AI workshops, to right before comments from the public. That way we can take care of business first and then have the workshop at the end just for efficiency purposes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Is there a second? Pam, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Comments from the public. The board has set aside time at the beginning and end of regular meetings for public comments for members of the public to share their views on matters involving the Wilton Public Schools and to help inform the board's decisions on such matters. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to any one subject. For the record, please also give your name and address. The board considers the views of citizens in its deliberations and welcomes and appreciates public comment. The board listens to public comment thoughtfully and with interest. The board, however, generally does not respond to public comment during the board meetings by offering commentary or answering questions. The board also invites commentators and the public to contact the board or the superintendent directly with any specific questions or comments. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, consent agenda. The consent agenda has minutes from the regular meeting of September 18th and the minutes of the Policy and Communications meeting on September 18th. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Nicola. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We just had a lovely evening of recognizing our PTA presidents and our PTAs and all the wonderful work that they do within our schools and with families and staff. And so we just would like to give a general note of thanks and appreciation and ask that all parents, sign yourself up, get involved, volunteer. It certainly is a lovely way to give back to your schools and see your kids in the learning environment and be a part of the community. Board Chair's report. I just want to say good evening and welcome to fall, where school's in full swing and amazing work is going on across the entire district. 10 Wilton High School students were recently named 2026 National Merit semifinalists with National Merit Scholarships awarded in the spring. So we just want to say congratulations to Lila Getner, Arden Hamilton, Ryan Katz, Adrian Monin, Key Patel, Polina Popova, Noah Sherrick, Meredith Sullivan, Miles Umerly, and Abner Wilson Spiro. Congratulations to them and their families. Quite an achievement. Also would like to note that this year's theme for the PTA Reflections Contest is I Belong. Entries of dance, film, literature, and photography are welcome. The deadline is November 21st, and the submission guidelines will be released shortly. The range of talent and creativity expressed from our youngest to oldest learners is always inspiring, and I personally look forward to this year's entries, and I'd like to just thank the PTAs for facilitating this opportunity. Last week, I participated along with Dr. Smith in a classroom walkthrough at Miller Driscoll, led by a TNTP consultant. Miller Driscoll teachers, administrators, coaches, and instructional leaders observed all grade levels during ELA instruction under the newly adopted EL program in both the language and knowledge skills and knowledge blocks. Using observation protocols for reading comprehension and foundational skills, the group then came together to discuss and debrief. I had several key takeaways. First, Our district is filled with gifted educators. And in my mind, educators include classroom teachers, administrators, curriculum coordinators, and coaches. And they are all dedicated to do what is best for our kids and their learning. Second, what goes on in our classrooms is a lot and extraordinary. Not even 2 months into the year, the rhythms and norms of learning are well established in each classroom, and focus and emphasis is on learning and the joy of learning. And three, implementing a new curriculum is hard, especially when the change includes a change of approach and material. Our educators are demonstrating every day their commitment to work together to implement the new program in service of its goals, supporting students in becoming 21st century readers, writers, and critical thinkers, while also remaining flexible and adaptable to student and classroom needs. Discussion around the table afterwards, including some disagreements, left me knowing that our kids are in great hands. Our kids benefit as our educators learn and grow from each other and adapt along the way. Please know that you all have our full respect and support. Finally, what's a board chair's report without a mention of the budget? This Tuesday, Lila, Kevin, and I will be welcomed by the Board of Finance to answer any questions in response to their data and forecasting requests as they embark on budget guidance. Similar to last year, I expect this to be an informative and collaborative discussion, grounded in data and realistic understandings of both educational needs and expectations, and budget realities and priorities. Thank you.
Great, I have a few items for you. We learned, I must say, a week and a half ago that 2025 graduate Courtney Allen, who is currently up studying at Dartmouth, was named a U.S. Presidential Scholar. So it's been a few years since we've had students recognized in that way. So that's exciting. Typically, presidential scholars are announced in May, and I'm just imagining that all of the upheaval from the early part of the administration, there was just a delay here, so we didn't see it this month. Anyway, regardless, congratulations to Courtney. That is an absolutely terrific honor. You probably also saw last week, niche.com does its annual school rankings, and as we have for a number of years in the past, we perform very, very well. So it's nice to see some external validation for the goes on in all of our classrooms. And so our school district was ranked 4th in the state and I think 88th in the country. So in 100 out of more than 10,000 school districts, which is impressive. Our high school was ranked, I think 7th, and our middle school was ranked 3rd. So amazing news all the way around. So we'll keep up the good work on that front. Ruth said it, and I'll just underscore it. The first month of school has been terrific, and so we have classrooms filled with very happy children. I shared with you already the kindergartners in Mr. Jimo's class informed me that we're 1/6 of the way through, Patrick. So if you are keeping track, 1/6 of the pie is filled in. Got it. So as you know, it goes fast. So it was nice to have our PTA folks here just to slow down for a second and recognize the work they do. But it's so far so good. We had a couple of real highlights last week. Our athletic director, Bobby Rushton, pulled together a committee about a year ago to relaunch our Athletics Hall of Fame. And so this is something he has been working on. He had a project that was underwritten by the Art Ball Scholarship Fund. And so they sponsored the creation of an interactive digital board that's now housed in our field house. That students scroll through and learn a little bit about our various athletics and some of our top performers over time. You might be interested to know he went and grabbed all of our yearbooks from the very first one, 50 years ago or whenever that was, and had all of the athletics pages digitized. And so you can go scroll by year, and if you want to blast from the past, it's there waiting for you in the field house.
Awesome.
Go see some friends from
Giving him a few.
friends from your Yeah, we also want to just say thank you to Bob and company. Last week was Spirit Week at the high school, and on all counts, it was tremendous, including being capped with a fine football win over Ludlow and a fabulous dance that night. So thank you. If you've seen any of the pictures on the high school Instagram page, you know that the kids were pretty widely engaged in the various theme days. So terrific. On a kind of less optimistic note, our annual routine of map testing this year was monumentally frustrating. There was just a gremlin in our system. It's somewhere between our access points in the Peterson wing at Middlebrook and NWEA, and so our tech guys have been pulling their hair out trying to figure it out. But if there's one thing that has not gone well this fall, that's it. So we don't have any good answers as we're looking forward to the next round, and before we start to do wholesale administration again, what exactly the problem is. And then just the last piece here is I'm sure everyone's just been watching the daily news and updates about the government shutdown. There have been some questions about the status of our federal funding, and I'm happy to report on that front. All of our funding is secured in place, and so it's not going to be impacted by what's happening right now with the shutdown. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Let's move to Middlebrook Facilities Plan Proposal.
Great. So you have a color-coded map in your packets. This board. So we've been talking about the work that went on this summer over in the Sherilyn Peterson wing. So we replaced the chiller and all of the piping in the ceiling. As part of that project, we ripped out the ceilings, all of the lights, replaced all of the flooring, and painted the entire wing. If you haven't been over there, please find 10 minutes to take a walk through. You won't recognize it from the last time you visited it. It's absolutely transformed. The contractors that were doing the flooring and the lighting did really well this summer, and so there's some momentum to keep going. So working with Jory, working with Jose, in consultation with Jeff Pardo and Frank Smariglio, we want to continue and try to get as much done as possible. We have currently approved bond funds for flooring, lighting, and ceiling tiles. We have operating capital funds to cover the painting. So I asked Jose to work with Jeff to come up with a plan so we can continue to do the work over the course of the school year. So the map you have in front of you details what we're proposing. Everything here in red, this is the Peterson wing. This is the work that's been done to date. Beginning in December, we want to move into the 6 green wing. So that's on the kind of eastern side of the building, and work through a couple classes at a time. Jose's got a proposed schedule that uses weekends and some of the holiday periods. And so what we would like to do over the course of this early winter is come through, replace all of the flooring, and do the painting in this wing. Lights and ceiling tiles we will do next summer. So this would be December here, everything that's green. Once that's complete, we would move down the hallway into the 7 green wing and try to knock out those 6 classrooms in the corridor, as well as the corridor that leads into the gymnasia, and then butts up against the 8 green wing. So from there, once we finish that, we want to tackle everything in orange. So all of the 8 green wings. So this is a bigger chunk, but we're thinking April break, that time frame, again, weekends, and just kind of, roll through in sequence and just get as far as we can. So you can see it would be the entire 8 green wing, all of the culinary classroom, the STEM classrooms in the back of the building, the health classroom, the band and orchestra room we did 2 years ago. So that room's all set. And then we would change out the flooring that leads in that corridor that leads into the auditorium. And then the final phase here, which we would propose for summer 2026, is everything you see in yellow. So cafeteria, media center, main office wing, guidance wing. We have a separate RFP for the art rooms, and then we would tackle the music rooms as well. So that's kind of the schematic. What we would propose, so we have bond funds available that I think is going to cover all of the flooring, all of the ceiling tiles, all of the lighting. Painting, as I said already, we have operating capital, but thinking about the next bond and the way I'd like to kind of put this together, what we'd like to do is really do a more complete renovation. And so in addition to the items I just described, take the opportunity to update the electrical and replace all of the furniture, the fixtures, the equipment. And so, make that kind of one bond package. If we do that, then the interior, and the bathrooms, excuse me. So the only thing we didn't touch here in these wings are the bathrooms. And so the bathrooms would need some updates. So again, it's flooring replacement, lighting, ceiling tiles, painting, and then, where necessary, the partitions. If we get through all of that, the interior of that space is, 99% complete, refreshed, updated. A couple of the other pieces that we have to plan for are the exterior. And so if you walk the exterior of that building, you can see pretty much along the entire backside from about, the first 3 feet from the ground level, the pointing is all deteriorating. And so there are a variety of reasons why that's happening, but that's got to be done. And then all of the exterior doors and windows need to be replaced as well. And so we need to map out how best and when to do that, but that would be next on the list. If we get that done, then that building, except for the remaining roofing projects that are just continuing to unfold over the next couple of years, that building's pretty much ready to go, and then we can move on to the next building. We've been in touch with both Frank and Jeff. They think this is a feasible plan. We have swing space available using the media center, so kids wouldn't be out of their classroom for extended periods of time because we'll be rolling a couple classes at a time as we work through each of these sections. So as of right now, we think it's a plan that can work. We need to finalize numbers. We need to make sure that the town folks are fully on board and that we have the appropriate authorization to access those bond funds. And then we'll need the selectmen to vote to approve, and then also vote to approve the use of the capital operating funds. Once we put those pieces in place, we're ready to go. So, and I have Jose here also got some other questions or comments. But that's what we're thinking for this building for this year. Did I miss anything?
The auditorium, it's going to be a standalone project. There's a lot involved. We have to add restrooms, address the rigging, dressing rooms, AC. So that's why we haven't identified anything yet, because we're going to propose that as a standalone project.
Yeah, did you everybody hear that? So the way we've been thinking about this is one project, the entire interior. We want to build new bathrooms, I think 2 on the outside, and then put an air conditioning unit on top of the area we built bathrooms, and then space that can be used year round. The only other piece we really didn't talk about is the flooring in the gymnasia, and so I think the wood flooring is fine. The rubber flooring is one that we have to look at and probably.
To kind of just summarize, I guess, a little bit, by the end of next summer, we are hopeful to be in a place where, for the most part, the interior of this building is taken care of.
It all goes according to current thinking.
To current thinking. So the interior of the building would be in place, and then the next things to look at for that building are the exterior doors and windows, and then the auditorium.
Correct.
As separate types of projects. I think that's pretty fantastic.
Me too.
Definitely.
It seems so needed.
Because just walking through that building and just seeing what has happened in the Peterson wing.
Yeah.
The changing, the flooring, the painting, the lighting, the new lighting, like that whole building, it feels just like a new.
Yeah. It's night and day.
New place to be, and a place that's like welcoming and kind of worthy of the people who spend their time in it. So I think that is really fantastic. I think I'm sure Jory and his staff are probably, you know, the ones who haven't had their rooms yet are probably like, you know, itching to get theirs done too. But I also just want to make sure that, you know, it's manageable in a way that teachers and staff and everybody feels that it's a feasible thing to do throughout the year. And I know that I'm sure plans wouldn't be made without taking that into appropriate and proper consideration.
Yeah, and we had some experience
Yeah.
when we did the first floors of the Peterson wing 2 years, was it 2 years ago? When we had the moisture concerns of, you know, moving folks in and out of these classrooms, you know,
Yeah.
while they were occupied. And so I think, you know, we've learned a little bit since then. So I
Yeah.
do think we've got some ideas about how to make it work as seamlessly as possible.
Yeah. No, I think the building, the layout itself, the way it functions as a middle school is really, it is still the right model. It just needs the,
PLC.
and the change in environment.
Yeah, it's really, it's the green wing that's kind of, you know, out of sync with, you know, what we'd want today because I think they lack any common spaces.
So is the work being done by our people on staff?
It's going to be.
Okay. And are we paying a premium for having them work on the weekend?
So right now, there will not be any weekend work. The way that we laid it out, it'll take 3 weeks to do the green wing. And then during the Christmas break is where we're gonna address the corridors, because obviously we can't do the corridors while the students are there. So there's no weekend.
So you're just going to use swing space in the media center?
Right, so we have the media center, we also have 4 classrooms in the Cheryl Lynn Peterson wing that we could utilize, room 101, 120, 201, 120, and 220. So we have the swing space, which will not impact our students, but right now, this work that we're presenting, we'll be able to get done during the regular work hours.
And so the money that's already bonded, does that cover the green stuff, or are we asking for money?
We think it should cover everything because there was 1.64 million approved. We've expended about $400,000 to completely do the Peterson wing. And so I think that one of the quotes I saw was about 140 for this section.
Yeah.
So I think we should be okay.
A few years ago, there was water coming in under the Cheryl Lynn Peterson wing. Do we know that's all remediated now?
I think in the plan for this section, there is plans to put a moisture barrier. Is that true also for 7?
Yeah, Cheryl Lynn Peterson as well. We grinded the floor and put an epoxy down. So yeah, it's sealed.
Thank you.
This is great.
Well, let's hope we can move it along.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of finalization steps that we put down and then get some approvals from the board.
So whatever you need from us to kind of, you know, approve and move along.
Yeah, at this point. So once I make sure those things are all in place, I'll probably come back to you with this plan for, you know, a vote. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Jose.
Okay, so let's move down to WPS district goals and priorities.
Okay, so hopefully everybody had a chance to review these. I'm going to ask the board to make a motion to approve, and these are goals and priorities for the year. And these will feed into the budget goals.
I know that in general, some of the, I look at these, we look at these every year, and some of them are kind of static, and I think that that's almost like, that's a healthy sign of like well-functioning system that, you know, that like our student achievement goal is high, and we, you know, you look over the course of the years, we're getting closer and closer, and I think that is also a sign of strength and stability over time. I always, you know, the second one after student achievement is always kind of that whole child and that wellness piece, and I think that kind of shows where our both priorities live and meet each other. I think that from the board perspective, we'll talk about the AI workshops that we're proposing over the year. But I think that that's a new and welcome addition, and I'm glad that's something that the board is taking around the table and bringing to the community. So I don't know if I wasn't at the first meeting where they came out, but if anybody has any questions or anything else they want to add or talk about, now's the time. Then I will ask for a motion to approve the WPS goals and priorities for 25-26 as currently drafted. Oh, thank you, Nicola. I saw Lori raise her hand. I'll take her as a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Great.
Make it happen.
Moving forward.
Moving forward.
This next one, policy 514412, challenging behavior prevention. We put this on as a first feedback at the September meeting, just to refresh your memories. The policy is statutorily required. The language was drafted primarily for the page. We went back and did some cleanup, really with the intent of making sure that this policy fully aligns with the language of the school policy. So there were some weird features in the K draft that carved out bullying and harassment from challenging behavior, and so we just made some modifications to better align. So you have the statement of purpose there, you have definitions, and then the last two pieces are the calls of the board to direct the administration to develop prevention strategies and then to collect and maintain data regarding challenging behavior that we will be reporting out to you per state statute again later this year.
Thank you. Thank you for doing some of that cleanup work just to make it a little bit easier to read and understand and how it all works together. Are there any questions or comments on the challenging behavior policy? Can I have a motion, please, to adopt challenging behavior prevention, restorative practices, response and student discipline, 5144.12. Thank you, Heather. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And now we can circle back up to the AI workshop. Bill, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that I'm closing tonight. So I promise you I have 7 slides. It's going to be very concise, but there's a lot of information in it. So please stop me if I go too fast. That is a habit of mine. Anyway, so Kevin had asked me back in September if we could do this, and it worked its way into some of the goal setting for the year, and it's a really exciting opportunity. I know we had a few conversations last year, and we were able to do the typical philosophizing that tends to accompany the introduction to any AI discussion. What I wanted to do was spend some time building from that. So today will be a little bit more of an intro, and I'll actually get you hands-on with School AI, which is something that the students have been using throughout last year's pilot and into this school year. And then we'll have a little bit of a book talk based on co-intelligence, which we can all approximate a good conversation or have a real good conversation. We can do it any way you want, but it'll be good. And then what we'll do is I realize I should try to show you the agenda. We'll talk about the book and the 4 principles of AI that are in there and some other stuff. And then we'll also talk about some of the other items that I was hoping to go through during the series. Each session I wanted to have kind of like a focus or a challenge and an essential question. So one thing that I've identified since I've been here, and I don't think this is any different in any other school district, is that as a whole, we could become a little bit more aware of the promise of AI and its uses for education. Obviously, with caveats, knowing that it definitely has its drawbacks too, but we'll probably be a little bit more half glass full or glass half full as we go through some of our conversations this year, but definitely talk about some of the kind of scale of AI use and where it's appropriate, where it's not appropriate to use with our students and with our educators as well. So the essential question for tonight is, how can AI be seen as a co-intelligence inside and outside of the classroom? Sound good so far? All right, you guys with me? All right, cool. Just a few updates since we last met, just some of the trends and things that are going on regarding AI and education. I've gone to a few conferences just last week, and obviously been in touch with other educators and done some of my own research, and I think these are probably the things that we should talk about first. Is some of you in your professional personal capacities might have already gotten into this, but there's a bit of a rise of agentic AI. That's kind of the next step. I think that a lot of us are going to be experiencing if we haven't already. What I mean by that is AI as an agent, as a helper, something that can act on your behalf. So I'll give you a few examples that are more in tune with education, but I think professionally people are using it for research. A lot of programmers are using agents to do work on the side, and then they'll get their programming done, and then the agent, which is essentially like an assistant, will complete some other coding task which they can import into their main program, etc. I ordered a pizza with it. I stopped myself because it was Domino's and I didn't want a stomachache, and I also didn't want to give my credit card information to ChatGPT at that point in time. But it was really interesting because it called up its own browser window. It was a remote machine or a virtual machine, and it went onto the Domino's website and fired up the different prompts that it needed to get the pizza set up. And then, it asked me at the end, can I have your credit card information, which was a little bit too Nigerian Prince for my liking, so I let that go. But, if I had a Domino's account, I think I probably would have been comfortable with it placing the order. I just didn't happen to have one. I didn't want to set one up at the time. So it was really interesting. So I just want to show you an example of what you might see if you were to do this. Can't find my mouse. Let's just try it this way. Is anyone else seeing them? Sometimes it's...
There it is.
What'd you get? Once I took it off the mouse pad, right?
There it is.
It works when I take it off of the surface, which is the exact opposite way a mouse is supposed to work. But the first thing I'll show you is this young woman. She is talking about how to use it more as an entrepreneur. And I think this is just interesting. I'm going to skip to the fourth example, so just bear with me while I find it. Maybe.
Right from the back.
I'm right near the thing. There we go. Let's have to go this way.
Project to life. Just by
Just get through the...
AI creation class.
Do you mind clicking skip for me? And then can you just pause it for one moment?
Right before that.
Sorry about that. I'm trying some different... Oh, there we go. Okay. Could you just skip ahead till you find the fourth? Someone, if you don't mind. Whoops. Yeah, so if you just slide ahead, there should be like a fourth. Yeah, just go ahead, just drag it across. It goes a long way. You can go mostly to the end. So case 1, case 2. You can be pretty aggressive with the slider.
Where am I going?
Just to case 4. And then I'll turn up the volume a smidge. Thank you, by the way, everybody, in the back there. There we go. So let's just go through case 4. She talks about starting like a fall fashion line and letting AI do it for her. So if you don't mind, just push and play. Thank you.
This next one is probably my favorite because it creates something you can actually see. Let's say you want to launch a clothing line, but you have no idea what designs are actually selling well. Instead of spending hours scrolling through different sites for inspiration on designs, let's see if we can use agent mode to research top-selling designs for us and to create a professional mood board based on those designs. For example, let's say we wanted to create some fall sweatshirt designs. I'm giving it this detailed prompt to research winning designs. Search for fall sweatshirt or autumn sweatshirt designs on Amazon that have over 50 sales or reviews and were released within the last 12 months. Collect 30 images of winning, top-selling sweatshirts showing layouts, fonts, and colors. If Amazon is unavailable, use backup platforms like Etsy, Redbubble, Target, etc. Build downloadable PDF mood board. Again, I'm giving it a backup option because we know these sites often block access. I'm also being specific on what successful designs mean, over 50 sales or reviews. So first it tries Etsy but runs into access restrictions again. So this is becoming a pattern, right? But watch how it adapts and now it focuses on Etsy instead, which has more accessible listings. Now it's systematically searching across Etsy for fall and autumn sweatshirt designs that meet our criteria, over 50 sales and launched within the past 12 months. So you can see it's identifying popular designs with themes like pumpkin spice, autumn leaves, in my era phrases, bucket lists, etc. It's not just collecting random designs, it's analyzing which ones have actually had strong sales records and which ones are trending and current. I actually used to have an Etsy store and this type of research would take me hours to do. Now here's where I had to step in. Initially, after working for 12 minutes, it created this table right here with all the design information, but I wanted actual visual mock-ups. So instead of giving up completely on this, what I did was I actually gave it a follow-up prompt, inserted the table that it gave me of all of the different designs, and said, turn this into a mood board with actual image mockups for each design listed. And for this, I just turned off the agent mode and used the regular GPT-5 model. And after giving it that follow-up prompt, here's what it actually delivered. A complete visual mood board with uniform sweatshirt mockups showing all the top-selling design trends. I'm actually pretty impressed. You've got vintage fonts, minimalist line.
So I agree. I'm pretty impressed too. The fact that, you know, if you're an Etsy shop owner, so you're probably, you know, it's a side hustle for you and you're a one man or one woman show, you could come up with all these ideas in a matter of minutes rather than spending maybe a whole weekend on trying to get this store launch or this new fashion line launch. So I think it's a really impressive capability. And I just want to show you very quickly what it might look like in the classroom. So this is and again, I said this will mostly be an optimistic series on AI, but just I also want to, you know, kind of set up an impetus for bigger conversations about what this is going to look like moving forward, what we need to do to change what we're doing with our students based on some of the trends. So here's a not so good example of AI. This is something I learned about just last week. It's called Comet Browser, and this is an AI-powered browser that acts as an agent, and I won't show you the whole video. I'll just show you a minute. You'll get the gist of it.
Hey, I am going to try and use the Comet browser here to take the Module 4 final assessment for data ethics. Normally, you'd have to use a lockdown browser for this, but I just wanted to see what would happen if I tried this. So I'm going to just tell it, please answer all the questions.
Turn this one.
In the browser. So right now, it's, I'll answer the questions. So let me start by answering this. Okay, perfect. So it's going to just kind of go through my test for me and start answering the questions. This is great.
Does everybody kind of get the idea here?
Questions and answering things for me.
And by the end, this guy's actually a college professor. By the end, he's like, I'm doing this in my own class, on my own test, and if you're giving, you know, assessments outside that aren't proctored outside of class, then don't bother, because this is how a lot of kids are going to answer them. You know what I mean? So I shouldn't say kids, adults do it too. I was just using Gemini on a test that I took this morning. That's besides the point. So I think that you get the gist of it, and this is one of these things that, you know, it is going to have an impact about what we're doing in and out of the classroom. So I just want to share that with you momentarily. And if there are any kids watching, I doubt it. Just don't get any bright ideas. All right, so let's get back to here. Those are just a couple of examples of agentic AI. Again, one of the trends that's moving up. Some things that I think that we would use in our teaching and learning scenarios. ChatGPT and Gemini both came out with study agents. They're not agents. They're not agentic, but study guided learning, study skills type of things. I won't bother showing the ChatGPT one because it's not something that we support as a district, although it is pretty good. But if you look at the Gemini guided learning, it's actually pretty neat. And this gentleman here,
introducing Grammarly like you've never seen before.
That's just Grammarly, but again, AI tools, right? Eric Kurtz, I saw him speak a few years ago. He's really like one of the front runners and talking about some of this stuff. And he'll go through some of the ways that you can use Gemini as a study guide. And this is something that we could enable and teach students how to do. So he talks about one math example and one English example. I'll just do the math one really quick. Again, we won't watch the whole thing. We'll just watch a fragment of it.
Daily, assuming no deposits are withdrawn, encourage them to think critically. Let's take a look at how this works. So let's say we have the following homework problem. Grace invested $5,200 in an account paying an interest rate of 4.6% compounded daily. Assuming no deposits or withdrawals are made, how much money to the nearest dollar would be in the account after 11 years? Now, let's put this question into Gemini twice. First, we're going to do it without guided learning, and then a second time with guided learning. So to begin with, I'm not going to use guided learning the first time, and we'll just go ahead and submit that question to Gemini. Now, without using guided learning, we basically get the answer. Gemini tells us that it would be $8,625 and goes through and explains how all of that works. Now, sometimes that is exactly what we want. If we have a question and we just need the answer, it's good to know that Gemini will give it to us. However, if we're trying to learn the content and to increase our critical thinking skills, this is not the right option. So instead, let's try the exact same prompt again, but this time we're going to click the guided learning option, and let's go ahead and submit that. Now, rather than just solving the problem, Gemini is reviewing some of the basics, going through the formula, and then it's asking me to say, okay, can I say what the values should be for P, R, N, T, etc., based on this problem that we're working on. So I might put in something like, I think P is supposed to be the principal, so that would be the $5,200 that she had to start with, and I'll submit that. And so now I'm getting confirmation on that, and it's moving on. What about R, the interest rate? Remember, that needs to be in a decimal form, so now I would work that out. So maybe I say, well, the rate R is 4.6%, and then I potentially made an error here. I'll say, so that would be 0.46 as a decimal, and I'll go ahead and submit that. And we're getting a response saying, hey, we're on the right track. We're converting the percentage to a decimal, but we've moved the decimal one too many places. It's talking about dividing it by 100 to go from a percentage to a decimal. So let's try that. Let's do 2 decimal places, and what would that become? Now, just to save a little time, I actually did do this whole problem earlier, and basically what you'll see is all along the whole thing, it keeps asking me questions, having me work out each piece, explaining all the different parts of the equation, plugging in the values myself, using order of operations myself to work out each piece of that until eventually I get to the final answer, and it gives me confirmation on that.
So I think that's pretty neat, and I'm not ashamed to admit that, I helped my 8th grader, my son, with some math homework using something like this, and it was pre-algebra, but that's besides the point. I mean, I'm not a numbers guy in that way, but, it's definitely a really great study tool that they built into Gemini and ChatGPT, and I think it's only going to grow from here. There's actually also another app that we have here in district, Notebook LM. It was part of our pilot last year. And I think that we talked about it at one point last year, but essentially it is a tool where you can use it for studying as well. And you can also, it does a great job of bringing, finding trends in data, and you can have it report back to you verbally through a podcast mode or through like a notebook, and it'll give you some of its own insights. And obviously there's some really good uses for that professionally, but for students, they've built in other things too, like mind maps and Q&A, audio overviews, interactive mode where you can actually talk to the podcast of the data you put into it. It's a really great way to work on research and then also now work on studying. So these are some new features they've added in. I actually was talking with Ken Denaj, who works here in the LLC, and with his podcasting class, they completed a Padlet, and he demonstrated with his students. He took the information out of the Padlet, which was a reflection on the assignment they did, and he put it into Notebook LM and then developed this graphic with using the app. And it was helping to show students what they thought about their storytelling assignment. So, if you zoom in and study this, you can see a little bit more about what they worked on, the feedback on audio effects and voice modulation, their storytelling, and it came up with this mind map to help guide them through some of their thinkings, and it also to highlight the trends. So I thought that was a really neat demonstration of that. So that's kind of what's trending and what's interesting right now. We also have this Presidential AI Challenge, Kevin had mentioned the shutdown earlier, but I think this is something that's going to continue as well. In fact, we have one of our teachers, Danielle Bottinger, is going to have her coding students in the middle school participate in it. And it's really exciting. It's really meant, and if you were to click on the image or the link, it would give more information. But it's really meant to get students to try to solve real world problems using AI. And it's open to all grade levels, and they're going to have judges at the state and the local level, and then going to more of a national level. And another neat thing is you can actually find a mentor from other public zones or private industry that can help to help the students work out their problem using AI. So it's a pretty neat program, and obviously this is the first time doing it. We're not sure how to navigate it all just yet, and it's a very short time frame because they announced it over the summer, and then it takes place in January. So it's really a one semester kind of thing right now, but I hope that it has some success and we're able to learn from it and maybe do it again if they run it again. So I'll give you some more updates on that as we go along. I will share this with everybody too, so you can come back and look at some of these things. Any questions so far? Sorry, I'm turning my back to you folks too. I apologize. All right. So as I mentioned, these are our primary AI tools: School AI, Gemini, Notebook LM, and they're used in lots of different capacities. School AI, for example, is being used by teachers and students. We kind of had a competition between Magic School and School AI in our original pilot last year, and School AI won about 60-40. Teachers who provided feedback said they liked it better, so that was the one we went with. It's used by students in classes too, which is something I hope to demonstrate a little bit tonight. And teachers can use it too. They have different bots built into it, and they can use it to come up with lesson plans and study guides and things like that. Gemini, as you know, is the ChatGPT competitor, and teachers are using that in district as well. Notebook LM I talked about. I would say teachers are using it, and I know for a fact that there are students using it too. And again, not for illicit means necessarily, but more to help with their research and help with their studying. But they're not using it through built-in accounts at this point. We don't have any of that turned on at this point. We just have School AI, so that's something we want to discuss and talk more about. I was also working with Chuck and his folks in the springtime, and we were working on it at the beginning of this year, coming up with some refinements and some examples. But in terms of just what we're thinking about with students and teachers is an AI scale of use. So times when students shouldn't use it, times when there could be some limited or targeted use, and then times when there could be some exploratory or extensive use. And there's also a curriculum guide that we hope to get in the hands of curriculum writers. Moving forward, this essentially has the same scale, but then provides some more guiding questions. And this is all stuff that we hope to pilot this year as well, kind of coupled with the tools that we have at our disposal. So I can provide more information on that a little bit later during this series. In March, we'll have Matt Mervis here, who's really become like one of the thought leaders in New England, and I would say further reached in that. And he and the other folks at Advanced talk a lot about curriculum, so we'll get more to that in March. All right. So those are the tools, curriculum updates, general stuff. Given that we're moving toward 8 o'clock, I did want to have you participate in School AI activity, and you're certainly welcome to, and I would love for you to all do that at some point. What it basically would be was you could scan the QR code or you can click here. And I would say it would probably take 10 to 15 minutes to get through. But what I'll do is I'll just provide a basic introduction to it if you haven't seen it before. And then we can circle back to it and talk about it more another time, because I don't want to take up too much of the evening. But I'll just show you what it looks like. So you would be invited to the class. You type in your name. We would probably encourage students to use their full name.
Is the keyboard not connected?
It probably fell asleep because I haven't used it in a little while. Oh, there we go. That could be my name for now. Close enough. And this is what the student would see. So the teacher would set this up on the back end, and the student would actually, it's a little bit hard to read from here. The student would say, welcome, AI Task Force. I did use this with the task force, but you're in a very similar position in terms of some of the information I provided. So it would actually give you an agenda of, it would offer you a refresher on the book if you'd like it. So it could give you a summary of some of the main points of the book. And then it would guide you through talking about your personal takeaways, brainstorm some next steps based on what you might have read in the book or in the summary, and then a review of some common themes. So you could type ready to begin, and they've kind of revamped School AI over the summer. There's now this, you guys remember Clippy from Microsoft Office? I said some disparaging things during the AI Task Force meeting about Clippy, and I was put in my place. So I'm not going to say anything mean about Clippy. So there's some Clippy fans out there. I also didn't realize that Clippy is becoming like a mascot for people who want to push back against social media and other forms of surveillance capitalism. So I didn't even know that Clippy was that kind of thing. So again, Clippy, we love you. But this app now has something called Dot, which is like Clippy, but it's got that same Clippy vibe, but it's a small little blue dot. So anyway, you can kind of see Dot down there, and you could speak with Dot if you didn't want to type, but you could also type or ask another question. But I'm just going to put ready, maybe. Wake up, keyboard.
Locked in the keyboard.
What's that? I got to lose some weight or something. Jeez. There we go. All right, so maybe I typed ready. Hopefully it'll fix the spelling. And then it gets you into here. So it could offer you the quick refresher on co-intelligence. And you could ask it some questions and go from there. Whoops. Okay. Sorry about that. Here we go. So as I scroll down, it would give you some information on co-intelligence. I'm just going to say that I know enough about the book considering I've read it twice. So I'm going to say yes. So it would think about my answer for a moment. Clippy, Dot is going to give me a response here. And then it gives you some conversation starters. One insight I had about the book was, or one challenge I see is, or a big opportunity for Wilton could be. So it's a really nice activity in this instance to use with students if it was based on a reactivity, because it could kind of take the place of like a note taker kind of worksheet or something. It's much more interactive. So again, I encourage you guys to try this. And by the end, sometimes because these tools are based on maximizing engagement, sometimes it won't know when to stop. And I always try to program it to say, don't ask more than 3 questions or don't ask more than 5 questions. So sometimes I remind students and even educators, like, just tell it you're done. Say, hey, we've had a good conversation. Hasta la vista, till next time. In this case, this one's been behaving pretty well, but it would guide you through a few more questions, then you could wrap it up. So if I were using this in class or in a session with the Board of Ed, I would say go through it, enjoy, have a good conversation, get your thoughts going, and then let's talk about the actual book. So if you guys want, we can spend a little time maybe just talking about some of your thoughts and takeaways about the book, or just AI in general if we're not quite ready to talk about the book at this time. Here's some ideas that I had from the book that I thought were interesting, but that's just for conversation starters. I was so maybe spend 5-10 minutes just talking, if you want. I know Pam had some ideas. I asked her if she liked the book, and she said no. I was taken back a little bit. I read a little bit. I think I know where you're going to go with this, but
So when they talked about there's so many tech words that I didn't understand. So there's the language, the large language
model, yeah.
Model. Mm-hmm. So what exactly is that?
It's essentially a large language model is what you take you take a transformer, which is part of what ChatGPT means, and you train it on the large language model. So basically, it's the most of the internet at this point. They're taking a server farm with like 10,000 GPUs, which is like really powerful graphics cards they've been using in a gaming computer. And what that does is it processes all of this text and images that it finds in the internet, and it basically teaches the AI what it's going to say when you ask it a question. So when you prompt the AI and I ask it, hey, can you help me study for this? It's probably going to pull data from vast sources. It could be an open MIT course that might have taught, some of those mathematical concepts. And it also could be something on Khan Academy. And I would say those are great sources, could be really useful for a student, but it also might pull something from a homework cheat site or Reddit or whatever. And then at that point, that's why we always have to kind of evaluate, whether AI is leading you in the right direction or not so much. But that's what an LLM or large language model is. It's basically ChatGPT or Gemini, etc.
Searching for other answers and then pull it together, and then that's what they give you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a predictive algorithm, right? So it's, mathematically guessing what it thinks is the likely response to your prompt.
It's like a super version of autocomplete.
Yeah.
So it can't actually think its way through a problem. All it can do is use the mathematical algorithm to predict what the right answer might be. So if I said, I asked ChatGPT the other day to help me find a new haircut. Looks a lot like my old haircut. And somehow it predicted that I would just want to have the same haircut. And actually it was, I'm not sure what poor person had to, work on that programming at some point to put in pictures of haircuts or whatever. But it's, trying to please me. So, if I had said, what would I look like with a shaved head? It would say, great. What would I look like with, pink hair? It would say, great. Like, it's always going to kind of agree. But that's how the autocomplete is trained. So you have to be aware of that as well. No one said nice haircut, by the way. It looks different. Yeah, it doesn't. It's fine.
I didn't really hate the book.
No, I understand. Well, it doesn't end on
It isn't in my wheelhouse.
Yeah,
and
I
so
understand.
It's a huge leap for me to kind of go there, but it's fascinating to me. Just honestly, the possibilities are just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, in those last few chapters, where it's kind of talking about what the AI future might be, some of them leave you a little bit cold, but some of them are promising, so, yeah.
I think that fourth sub-bullet of assume this is the worst AI you'll ever use. To be clear, I think what they're implying is it is the lowest quality AI, not the most maniacal or darkest version.
Yeah, right.
The internet was read-only when it started. You could just read the internet. You couldn't actually publish or write anything. And that seemed pretty cool 25 years ago. So we are working with the most rudimentary version of the underlying models, which is very abstracted away, but the tools that are built on top are very elementary. 5 months ago, you could just type text in and get a written answer back, and now it's very interactive. It's just speech only. So it's only going to get better from a user experience, and I think a lot of people feel distance because it's just not an intuitive tool that you're using in your everyday lives, but that will change. And I also think that no one in the industry has done a great job of explaining how not different it actually is from some of the tools you use today. You sit around and we all query Google or some search engine all day long. This is not that different in terms of a lot of the ways that people use AI today. It's an ask and receive. It's a prompt and response interaction model, which is very similar. It's just highly more efficient and much smarter than what we're used to using today. So some of my perceptions and some of the things I liked about, I have not read to page 180 yet, candidly, but
that's okay.
I did like that. And talking through just, it seems like this big scary thing because people no one's done a great job, I feel like, of just saying it's not that far away from what you're used to doing today. It's just delivered in a much more user-friendly and smarter way, but it's enabling a lot of the same activities.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned it's going to change. It's a matter of the way you work with it. So that whole concept of centaurs versus cyborgs, I thought that was pretty interesting because a centaur would be somebody he explains it more in the book, but would be somebody who delegates to AI. Hey, AI, do this for me. AI, do that for me. Whereas a cyborg is somebody who kind of integrates with it. For example, I think Ken Denaj's work with his class, he didn't just dump something into Notebook LM and say, hey, give me the trends from the student responses from Padlet. He brought it up and analyzed it and talked about it with his students, and it integrated it into his thinking and his lesson, which I thought was more of a cyborg way of doing it. But sometimes, for example, I was putting together some materials for a professional learning session I'm going to give next week, and I just dumped it in and got it out, and I wasn't really collaborating with the AI. It was just something I needed to put together in a nice package, and I didn't go out of my way to, interact with it. So I think that is really cool that you mentioned that, Patrick. That's a good example in that. And until people kind of decide where they are in that centaur cyborg continuum, which does sound very sci-fi now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe that makes it more intimidating. But I guess it varies on task too. Like certain tasks you might want to be one or the other, but kind of interesting.
So, as I admittedly haven't looked at the book yet. I'm just I feel like our kids are probably in a different place with all of this than kind of a lot of educators are in terms of their comfort with it, their use of it, their adaptability to it. And I also think that it's something that all of our kids are living with and are going to increase in living with over time. And so I also, it needs to be something I think that our kids all get to experience and use in a productive, positive way. And all of them do, not just maybe because they have the teacher who's more comfortable with it, or what Ken is doing with his students. And so that's the shared experience and learning behind it and understanding of it. And to some extent, do we think that kind of, how you were talking about the scale of use? Do you think that scale of use or those ideas are going to change as AI becomes iteratively more, better or more efficient? So is it something to be said that that as a basic kind of, we have a general digital citizenship type curriculum or understanding. Is that a basic platform for all our kids to start with, kind of that scale of use or understanding, and then making sure that everybody gets kind of exposure?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the main place it would start would be with the LLCs. In fact, it was just decided we're going to do a curriculum review for the LLC department this year into next year. So obviously we're going to be writing lessons and finding curriculum that fits in to expose students to AI and make sure they have that baseline understanding. And then I think that scale of use will grow and adapt as we move forward, but it'll definitely be integrated throughout the district in all different subject areas, different grade levels as well. And I think, again, it's a continuum. So as you kind of alluded to, certain things will fit on the high end of AI use and exploratory use and other things, especially when we're trying to help students develop basic skills. And, there's one part of this book where the building expertise in the age of AI, Ethan Mollick talks about how you have to have more expertise to work with AI effectively rather than less in the end, because you have to be able to move it forward and get it to do what you want to do and know what you can trust and what you can't trust. So I think that we need to express that to students and build those skills too, especially with the younger students. And then moving forward, you can move up the scale of use, so to speak, and find places where students can use it to solve real world problems, like in the AI challenge and things like that. Yeah. So 100%. Yeah.
So that's, we always talk about having short experiences, and I just, just think about, how this is entering, our lives. And, I have, an 8th grader who wanted to convince me to do something, so she put a ChatGPT, presentation together and tried to, convince me.
She didn't spend a lot of time.
Yeah, why, she should, why we should do this. And
did it work?
No, it didn't. She's in 8th grade. I'm still a little bit, not much, but but I told her to have another go at it. Maybe think about what your inputs were on that.
Well, that becomes a teachable moment, right?
Yeah. No, but it does. But I'm saying, but also just the fact that they're already pushing what they can do with it. And so, and I kind of don't want it, you think about like a learning environment, and you don't always want it to be as though like you're trying to stay ahead of the kids out of like fear for something, so like how do you kind of grow in it together?
It is pretty good advice though, because I went on ChatGPT about the book, and it said that a lot of it is already dated.
This was 2023, I think, so.
It said that, but it talks about not fully trusting it, always being careful, use multiple passes. I don't understand what that meant.
Multiple what again, I'm sorry?
Passes.
Oh, maybe.
Keep prompting it.
Yeah, maybe
Keep human judgment central and always invite AI in and use it.
Right.
But then be careful, not fully ever trust it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's, and I thought that was pretty good advice about where we are now. Obviously, it's going to get better and better and better, and probably eventually outthink us, looks like.
If the billionaires in Silicon Valley have their way, that's probably where we're headed.
Yeah.
Take that however you want, but that's where we tend to be leaning right now, so.
Yeah. I just want to be clear, AI can't think yet.
It's true.
We're trying to get it to think, but it's a question whether it will ever be able to think.
Yeah, it's simulated thinking. Yeah, which is, always keep that in mind
They're just mimicking what they see on the internet, right?
But I think eventually it's going to think.
They might. They're looking at some cognitive models now, but our understanding of thinking is so primitive. I'm not so sure it would be.
We don't even know how we think yet.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but regardless of thinking on thinking, it's certainly going to be an important tool that we're all going to need to be.
How are we integrating it into professional development right now?
Right now, we are going to be doing a lot of work with the Tech ILs, and I've been collaborating on that, and they're going to try to get into faculty meetings and into IET meetings and things like that to work with small groups. And then I'm hoping, when we have a full learning day next year, we can have almost like an AI summit or something. I was at Advance last week, and Milford talked about how they did that, and everything they explained feels like the exact same conversation we're having right now, but they might have been a little bit ahead of us on the professional learning side of things, because they had some thought leaders in and that they kind of started to form some of the same documents that I share with you, and they had some coaches doing their thing, but then they were able to get a couple good learning days put together, and teachers felt like they had a decent foundation. So I think that's probably what we're leading up to. But in the meanwhile, we'll definitely be having kind of doing it in smaller groups. The ILs and I last year launched the pilot. We went to faculty meetings and try to get teachers hands-on and show them the tools. And this year's a continuation of that. So,
yeah, I think we need to accelerate the education of the staff as much as we can and the educators, because natural tendency is you're not going to talk about things you're not comfortable talking about. And I think it's too easy right now to fall into the vilify AI. It's just easier because that's the common talking point and position, and kids will run to things that we tell them not to go use. And so I think I'm very focused on how we can bring a really optimistic point of view on how this can be used in the right way in the classroom, and making sure that our teachers and staff feel as empowered as anybody to have that conversation with our students.
I think we're getting past the fear.
Yeah.
I'd say last year there was a lot of fear. I think we're now at a stage where they're starting to explore and get used to it.
From the staff, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Once they start to see what it can do for their professional work, then they start to feel more comfortable and say, okay, well, I'll try out a lesson using School AI, or I'll try out, like the thing that Ken did with Notebook LMS, et cetera. So I don't think we're behind. I think we're probably ahead of a lot of other places, but there's obviously a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, and sorry, when I meant like society writ large fear. Like there's just a lot of
there's that too. Yeah,
there's very negative connotation half the time you get into a conversation about AI. So anyway, I'm glad to know that we're taking such a positive and proactive.
Yeah, Bob and I were in an English class over at the high school, and the teacher was using School AI. The kids were working on a thesis statement, and so they were using School AI to help refine their thesis statements. It was a really constructive use of a powerful tool, and even the way the School AI was feeding questions back to students. I think this has been one of the fundamental concerns or fears is that kids are going to sacrifice their own capacity to think critically by taking the easy way out. And so, the first manifestation is the defensive reaction to shut it down, get it out of here,
Right.
Go analog. And so I agree with Chuck. I think, while that is absolutely a concern we must address and work our way through across the district, I'm seeing and hearing more stories of organic experimentation, and just about every digital tool at this point has some kind of AI feature. So it's just also more present than it was even a year ago. So I
think the challenge for us is to help teachers to understand that we don't want our AI to assume the thinking that we're trying to develop with kids, right? Because that's going to defeat the purpose, right? We want kids to think, and that's why we had that continuum. We're not going to use AI if it's going to replace the thinking that we're trying to teach the kids. There may be tasks where, some of the thinking could be done to AI, but not all of it. And then we'll get to the point where I think actually AI can support the thinking and extend it.
Yep.
So that's the challenge for teachers right now. Yeah. I'm not getting the sense they're afraid of it. They just need to learn how to use it in an appropriate way that doesn't undermine what we're trying to do with kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How are the teachers at the elementary school feeling? Are you using it in any particular, are your teachers using it in any particular way?
Well, sometimes to develop newsletters, sometimes to respond to emails, sometimes to write comments for report cards. So again, they're putting in a lot of information, so they're using it in that way.
They're using it with kids too much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. For their own professional work, they're using it for some things, but not really with kids yet.
Yeah, and that, to Chuck's point, that's exactly where I think we should be.
Right.
Outside of maybe, having a kid experiment with something, that wouldn't make it part of any of the core learning, for sure. Yeah. So, can I speak about Katie Durkin?
Sure.
One of the teachers at Middlebrook, Katie Durkin, she had an article that was published and was featured in the Marshall Memo recently, where she was talking about how she really transformed her writer's workshop using school AI, and how it became a thought partner for kids, much like a co-intelligence, but again, it wasn't doing the work. It would help. I can't speak exactly to all the details that she did, but I've done something similar as well in some things, and it was really meant to, you conference with the kid, and then AI helps fill in some of the gaps. And, AI might help with some brainstorming, or might actually help with some proofreading, or that thesis idea that Kevin and Bob was talking about. But in the end, it freed her up to conference with the kids more and actually be more hands-on with the kids rather than less. Because I use this example all the time. If I were working with Eric, and the rest of you guys are waiting for me or a paraprofessional or a co-teacher to come help you with your essay, what are you going to do? You're going to go off task or get stuck or whatever. But if you have some school AI to interact with, then it keeps you on task and keeps you thinking about the assignment rather than just being idle. So it's a really neat use case that I think she highlighted in that particular article. So I think that we need to encourage and learn more about that 100%. Did anyone else have anything they want to share in principal side of things?
I could share a number of stories where different IETs are working with and saying, it's all within that vein of what Chuck was saying. We want to make sure that we're not removing the thinking from the kids, that they're still doing the thinking. I think about our 7th grade social studies department, who's helping the students on how school AI can help them write a better inquiry question, and helps them through some of their thinking about, is this too broad? Is this too limited? What else might you consider? But it's never, as you showed earlier, it's never giving an answer. It's challenging the thinking. And what's really nice about it, it gives a script for the teacher to review to see exactly what that interaction has been and how it's changed the student's thinking, or how it's adjusted their thinking, or what they've done to. So
yeah, you could actually go in and see what the interaction was between the student and the chatbot, which is pretty neat. And you can even use that as a monitoring or a formative assessment of itself to see where they are in the conversation. So
I think the other thing it's done is allowed teachers to know in an instant who are those students I need to check in with today, who are the students that don't necessarily need to check in today with perhaps a writing or a research piece that they're doing. And it allows just that really quick check. It gives them that opportunity to be able to have a written back and forth with that student as well.
And I think that goes back to some of that kind of like building the expertise with it. And just how we, like, I think there's the professional way that teachers build their expertise, but also how are we teaching our kids to build that expertise within it as well, because that being able to use it to the best of your advantage or your ability is also a skill within itself. And so even just finding space for that amongst all the other things that we need to find space for, and how that lives alongside with the thinking that we want to make sure that it's not interfering with.
Definitely.
Big questions.
Yeah. And if we had some of the answers, we'd be writing books about all this too. I'll try to just figure it out.
Maybe we will write a book about
That's
the
true.
Wilton experience.
I would love for that,
All
yeah.
proceeds could then.
How fun would that be?
We'll get that Jory's renovation done a lot faster, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so Ethan's book is 2 years old and it's stale.
I was just reading.
It's really funny how and I think that's the other, Patrick, I think you were alluding to that. This landscape is shifting so rapidly, right? I mean, we want to really focus on big picture structures and thinking and not commit to any one tool, any one methodology, because, tomorrow it's going to be different.
Yeah, he actually just had a post on his Substack where he was talking about how now he's calling it like the AI agents are like wizards, and they do come in and do something magical and you can't figure out what it is they did or how they did it. And he had put in some of his own research and it drew insights that he liked better than the ones he came up with years ago, and he had no idea how it happened or couldn't verify it, but it sounded good. And he's obviously a leader in his field in entrepreneurship and AI, and it was really interesting. So yeah, he even added there'll probably be a second edition of this book and a third and a fourth, like you have been saying. So quite a bit going on.
So I think that gets back to your point though, like how to identify like the larger picture and the structures that you kind of need to facilitate this, regardless of the changes that happen within it. And that.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, Chuck's been curating articles, and I'll share them with the board when I get back in front of my computer. And the good news is there are a lot of really good thinkers thinking and writing about this topic cross-sector. And so, a lot of folks are weighing in ways that are helpful to inform our thinking.
Definitely. Final thoughts before we move on?
It sounds like it could be great for engagement and great for learning. I'm just not so sure how great it is for the job market.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bigger problem, bigger question, and there's a lot of people providing punditry on that as well, and the truth is we're not quite sure where it's going to go yet, and that's something to keep in mind too. In the near term, I think, like as many of us have mentioned, kids need the skills, at least a baseline, so they're not lost. Yeah, for sure.
It also goes back to that idea that from that workshop where we talked about making sure we're building good humans, good people. Right.
Yes.
Because that's
They've all said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing we don't want to ever lose. Yeah, perfectly said. So I'm glad you mentioned engagement, because that's actually the next one in the series. So I was hoping I'll hand out another reading assignment on the way out. Again, do with it what you will, but we will talk about the disengaged teen and some of the concepts from that book in our next one, and we'll talk more about student engagement. In December, AI and Digital Citizenship, which we touched on tonight as well, and that'll be based on another book, Raising Humans in a Digital World, which is actually the foundation for our cyber civics curriculum that we're using, so I'm excited to talk about that with you. I already mentioned we'll do a little bit more discussion about curriculum and teaching and learning, and Matt Mervis will be the guest host for that one. And then I didn't see 4/9 on the document that came out, but I think that was a date that we had, so that would be kind of a review and next steps discussion. Sound good so far for everybody?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. I really appreciate the time tonight.
No, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
teaching us.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun, and mentioning the key skills and demand from the World Economic Forum. I can't zoom in on this too easily right now, but again, I'll make sure you all have this presentation. You can take a look at that, and it's everything we talked about tonight. So I think we're all, our hearts in the right place, our minds in the right going in the right direction. I think that we're doing the right stuff, so we'll just have to keep collaborating and working on this. And you can click on here for an overview of the year and get more detail on that too.
Great.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, lots of fun. Thanks. Yeah, my pleasure.
That takes us back to comments from the public. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, under future business, we have, just for everybody's information, it was posted and provided to you tonight. There's just a listing of the committees of the board and special meeting dates. Thursday, October 23rd, note the change time. We will start at 8 o'clock at night in order to facilitate our ability to be at the Where You Belong fashion show, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we'll have a regular 7 o'clock Thursday meeting on November 6th. November 20th, we'll start at 6:30 and we'll be hosting a 2-topic meeting, parent engagement and community conversation about the budget. Can't believe that's coming up already. And again, Tuesday night, we will be, the BOF will be having its budget guidance beginning discussion. So
This Tuesday?
This Tuesday, yes. So with that, 8:20 meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.